Good evening. My name is Georgianne Herbert. with Detroit Public Television. And on behalf of DPTV, the Kresge Foundation, and School Readiness Consulting, I'm really delighted to welcome you. This is our fourth Tools for Hope learning series. Tonight's topic is family engagement. And the Tools for Hope professional development series that we've put together are led by Detroit-based organizations with very deep experience serving children and families. The 10-session series began August 20th and will continue into December 3rd. And each session will provide Detroit's early childhood education professionals with some tools, information, and some resources as they continue to do their work, incredibly valuable work supporting children and families as we go through this pandemic. Early childhood education is a critical component of our infrastructure. The governor has said some nice words in the last few days in support of early childhood educators and the work that they have done. And we know that you are faced with challenges, and we hope that we can overcome some of those challenges by learning and growing together. Before we get started, just to take care of a few housekeeping details. To reduce the background noise, we've muted all the participants, and we will be using the chat feature to communicate. At the bottom of the Zoom screen, you'll see the chat button, and clicking that button will open up the box, and you can send a message to me and the facilitation team, Angela, and it comes up as Zach, who is our engineer on the call, and type the message and press enter. And right now I'm sending a message so that you can make sure that you can see it, and just again to welcome all of you who are joining the call. We will begin by asking the panelists some questions. During our discussion, if you have questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box, and we'll do our best to respond to as many questions as possible. And we do expect to have time for live Q&A towards the end of our time together. And if you are experiencing any difficulties, technical or otherwise, do let us know through the chat, and one of the facilitators will go to work to try to get it ironed out. So let's get started. We'll be asking the panel a series of questions, and we invite the panelists to respond to the questions most relevant to their work and role. And we want to make sure all voices are heard. And as a reminder, if you have a question for the panelists, please type it into the chat box. Without much further ado, I would like to introduce our tour guide through early childhood in the city of Detroit, and someone who's very important to the DPTV team. And that would be Kamara Morgan from Detroit Champions of Hope. And she's our moderator for the evening.
Thank you, Georgianne, and hello, everyone. It's so great to be here. As Georgianne mentioned, I'm Kamara Morgan, currently serving in several roles, and one of those roles is a co-coordinator for Detroit Champions for Hope, which is imperative number 2 for Hope Starts Here, to develop a comprehensive early childhood system for the city of Detroit. I'm also proudly serving as a network partner with the Fisher Foundation, serving childcare programs in the Brightmoor community. I am super excited today for this conversation around family engagement. Family engagement is a critical component of early childhood programs, and due to the impact of COVID-19, there's been a huge shift in how, when, and where family engagement occurs. So today we have wonderful panelists who are going to have a discussion around partnering with families as they're experiencing adversity and stress, and also really being intentional about how we engage with them. So I'm really delighted to have many partners on the call today. We have Sonya Brannon, who is an owner of a childcare program serving the city of Detroit. We have McKees Taylor, who is an unlicensed provider serving families in the city of Detroit. We also have Samantha Booker, who is a parent as well as a teacher in an early childhood program. We have Goya Diaz, who's with Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, and Oriana Powell, who's with Mothering Justice. And so to start us off, we're going to talk a little bit about why engagement of families with young children is important to us. And so maybe Samantha, can you start by sharing your name, a little bit more about your role, and why engaging families with young children is important to you? Unmute yourself first.
Hi. Well, my name is Samantha, but I go by Sam commonly. I'm a parent of a 2-year-old standing right next to me. I also work in a center. I am the records coordinator of a center in Detroit. And I think it's important to engage in reaching out to families with smaller children because I'm a new mom and I just felt like coming into being a parent is kind of like a lost world. You feel like a deer caught in the headlights. So support is needed, especially during these uncertain times. We're all scared. It's something about coming together and being scared together. It's comforting.
Good point. Well, thank you, Sam. I'm so glad to have you on the panel. Um, McKees, I wonder if you might go next in sharing your name and a little bit about what you do and why engaging families with young children is important to you.
Hi, my name is McKees Taylor. I'm a community outreach specialist with Champions of Hope. And I think being engaged with families in this uncertain times is very important because people need to know how loved they are, how important they are, and how we're going to keep building them up and being resilient and keep being powerful.
Wonderful. Thank you. It is really a tough time. And talking about resilience, we might come back to that, McKees. Thank you for mentioning that. Sonya, might you go next in sharing a little bit about yourself and why family engagement is important to you?
Hi, my name is Sonya Hicks. I'm actually the owner and director of Village of Shiny Stars Childcare Center. Family engagement is important to me because children need to be able to see a partnership and a relationship between the teachers and their parents. And if they see this, they'll feel more comfortable in the school setting.
Thank you. Goya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Goya Diaz and I'm with Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation. I am the Family Department's Director here in DHCC. Thank you for having us. So again, family engagement is very important to me, actually. You know, we need to know what our families are going through to help them. And who else knows what they're going through, if not, if it's themselves, the parents, right? Mm-hmm. So how are we gonna get to know what they're going through? We definitely need to talk to them and communicate and see what is their needs, right? Mm-hmm. And early childhood programs are very important because, you know, it impacts the lifelong health of our children, right? And of course, we all say we want to better our children to become better than what we are, right? So that's exactly why I love doing my job.
Thank you, Goya. And without further ado, Oriana, who has a beautiful young child right in the screen with her.
Okay, look, we worked everything out to have everything perfectly calm by this time, and she just decides, ow, Leilani, to bite me. So we'll deal with that in a second. Sorry about that. Hey, everybody. My name is Oriana Powell. I'm the childcare movement. Thank you. That's Leilani. This is Princess Leilani, like she likes to be called. But I'm the childcare movement organizer at Mothering Justice, which is a group that's Black Mama led and founded, focused on economic justice for Black mamas and other mothers of color. We absolutely believe that any solution to any problem is going to come from a mother who is normally sitting at the helm of family, sitting at the helm of of economics, and just really has done so much of the work. And normally in our society specifically, we do so much of the work where we know where things are amiss or where things are going wrong. We probably have a solution, and so we want to center the thoughts and needs of our mothers of color, and push that into a place where we can actually build support for policy solutions that will actually help those that are impacted. But for me, it's absolutely important that we engage, and that specifically parents of young children are engaged, especially at this time. For me, it's personal, right? I think even before having a daughter, when I was a young child, I felt like, and I think I've said this before in Hope Starts Here settings, like, I just remember how much support my mom received. Like, I was a child of a single mother, and I just remember program after program, she found any and everything she could find to connect us to community, always being present and other spaces, building her village, always finding other places to keep us entertained, keep us motivated, keep us learning, inspired by new things. And so I know that it's just a huge need on an everyday basis. And specifically during this time, between COVID and racial uprisings and everything that's happening, I think a lot of what McKees said, that folks need to know that they're loved. Folks need to know that they have support. I know even for me, like when you're quarantined or when you're not spending as much time in community or with folks that you normally are, it's important when folks make those calls and ask you how you're doing, find different resources and support for you. I get like, I'm a part of a Black Lives Matter group that sends like bi-weekly Detroit-based produce, and it's like it helps me with my groceries, right? It helps me be able to try new things, spend less money on groceries. It's just a way to really to develop and make sure that folks know that they are part of something bigger than them and there's support, that we're not going through this alone. So it's extremely important for us to be engaging with parents all the time, so that they know that there's support out there. Sorry.
Thank you. And it's also important to know how to interact with your child, as Oriana is doing. Wonderful, thank you. So both Goya and Oriana mentioned a little bit about some of the uncertainty that's kind of happening right now and the importance of talking to parents first as we think about solutions. So of course, this time, not only has it been a different time in our nation, of how we interact with each other, but some of that has raised fears and stress significantly, I think, for myself and for many others. Sonya, I'm wondering, what have you heard from families, and what are some of the fears that you've been made aware of, in particular as they're thinking about returning to childcare programs? And how have you responded to that? What have you been doing to help?
Some of the fears that I've heard from families was definitely health and safety, and classroom sizes.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two that I've heard so far, and I'm sure there's many others. But we've actually made sure that we went over our response plan with them, as far as having parent meetings, and just going over how we're doing things differently. So we've always done we've always been clean. We've always been safe. So now we're sparkling. That's what I tell them. Now we're sparkling. So we have those, the zonal sanitation machine. We upgraded our sanitation procedures. We do, have shoes for them to come in, into the center with the mask, the temperature check, the, all those things as far as like the, even scanning in and not signing in. So we've done a lot of different things, and we made sure we was transparent with our parents to let them know, because it's all about communication. It's all about communication.
What are some of the ways that you've been able to communicate with your parents, Sonya, that you found have worked during these challenging times? Because I've heard that some childcare programs are not even like allowing the parents to come in. They're like handing the children to the teachers. And so what are some ways that you've been able to communicate with parents during this time, even about progress and growth?
So we have been not allowing our parents to come in as well, but we have Zoom calls with them. We make sure we send things through our Bright Wheel app, as far as activities that they're doing, pictures and things like that. So we are not allowing the parents to come in either, but we still do communicate with them.
Okay, so it sounds like you have a Bright Wheel app that you use to stay connected with the parents, that they can see on their phone kind of what's happening throughout the day, and your teachers communicate with them. Yes. Wonderful. That sounds very exciting. Oriana, could you share a little bit of what you've heard from families and some of the fears that they have had during this time, and how your team is responding?
Yeah, for sure. Kamara, I feel like for us, so Mother and Justice has a few different ways that we're engaging with parents. On a more broad level, there is off our Facebook page, we're doing like a weekly mama conversation. That was something that is a continuation, or a virtual continuation of something we did in the community, where we would just have weekly conversations where folks would just show up to the office, and we would have different topic points just to kind of figure out where folks are, what folks are feeling. And we also encouraged our leaders to host it in homes, things like that. So now we're kind of having either virtual mama conversations that are more private, on a Zoom call where it's like you and a few friends, or if you're a childcare provider, it's you and maybe you invite some parents or other family members, or oh, be very careful, Leilani. Okay. So that's one of the ways that we're hearing from parents, kind of hearing what the fears are. We also have smaller Facebook groups and just different options where there's more private conversation where people can kind of just vent or just share their experiences and things that they're concerned about. What we've heard is just kind of all over the place. Like specifically, we're working with mamas in general. So whether it's childcare or school-age children, there's just so many fears right now, specifically since school has started back, from whether it's actually getting the financial support around being home with your children. I know that right now we were just learning and in conversation with the governor's office and also different senators around the PUA money that comes with unemployment. It's for full-time primary caregivers who get the additional $300 for support if they have to stay home with their family member. Stay home and take care of the child, because kids are doing virtual learning, and that's something that Michigan and I think it's like 9 other states opted in to get that support, but that isn't across the country. So we're trying to advocate across other avenues to help that be an option for all states involved. And then the other thing that we're hearing is really there's struggle with, like, parents just simply are not teachers, and parents are afraid that their kids are going to be behind. They're afraid that they're not going to be able to really help the child the way they really need the help. They're not getting that hands-on support that they need. Whether you're working at home and actually have a couple minutes in between your own work schedule to support, or you're out of the home working and you just don't know what the child is doing. I've talked to parents who, one parent has a 17-year-old and a 7-year-old, and she's leaving those kids at home all day while she works, and she's not home till 4 o'clock when school is over. So she is counting on the 17-year-old to have to feed the 7-year-old during the day, also help the 7-year-old if they're actually interacting with the teacher and needing some type of parental support, and all in the middle of his own schedule, right? His own school schedule. And then she has to come home when she gets off work and figure out what it is they did all day, and figure out how she needs, and communicate with the teachers office hours and all that other stuff. So folks are also bothered by behavior, right? There's a lot of behavior changes that our kids are going to suffer through just being in a new environment where they're at home, they're not interacting with their friends the way they used to. There's just so many things that people are concerned with. It's just really kind of all over the place. I think one of the things that we're trying to do that our parent leaders are interested in doing is building community support. Mother and Justice's main focus is policy change, but in policy advocacy, but we are absolutely from a grassroots level. So direct mamas engaging in informing what policy should look like for them. But we are also very rooted in community, right? The only way to have any power is to have collective voice. And so a lot of times our parent leaders are interested in hosting conversations or hosting support groups based off neighborhood, right? If I'm a parent who's working out of the household, but I have my kids at home, is there a parent who's working at home who maybe could let my kids stay during the, if we have the internet connection and have the support to have a couple more extra kids at their house, how can they build and support one another? And so we've been having a lot of conversations with our parent leaders to figure out how it is they can support each other, and then how we can use that as a model to help advocate for other support that they're going to need to make sure that happens for them.
Wonderful, really super great points. And I know that there have been many childcare programs that also have decided to serve some K-12 students. And they've been kind of responding to parent needs as it relates to that, because some parents have also mentioned, considering resigning from their jobs. I'm not sure, Sonya, has your program made any adaptations to be supportive of parents who maybe are experiencing some of those fears or challenges?
Yes, but unfortunately, we just got a notice from DHS that we cannot bill for those students, school-age students who will come to us for remote learning, which I think is so sad, because our parents do need that help, and they do need someone to help the children get through the virtual learning, because a lot of them are not techie savvy, and it's just been really hard. So hopefully someone can give us some money somewhere so that we can support our school-age children.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the fact that childcare programs are working hard to be responsive, as well as Mothering Justice and organizations working to advocate on behalf of families. COVID-19 has really reduced the number of children in licensed childcare programs as we're talking about right now, and it's really restricted the reach of many teachers, while really broadening at the same time the need for caregivers, parents, and others to serve in a teacher role, as Oriana just mentioned. What are you really doing to strengthen the connections for families and caregivers? Goya, can you talk a little bit about what some caregivers are experiencing during this time and how they're kind of bridging the gap to support parents right now?
Yeah, actually, I can go ahead and just start by saying, you know, actually here in Southwest Detroit, we don't even have one licensed childcare center here. So again, we have to rely on an informal childcare provider. Even before COVID even started, most people, you know, took their kids to informal childcare providers. Again, these are people that you trust, you know, that you're going to leave your child and you're going to trust, you're going to know they're going to get fed. So what we've recently started doing, we're providing workshops for informal childcare providers. We did topics on like reopening. You know, we are hearing a lot that a lot of parents were concerned about even taking their children to an informal childcare provider because of the safety. You know, are people cleaning their houses? Are they decontaminating, disinfecting everything? And so, yes, that's exactly why we at the HCC decided that we are going to do these virtual learnings to our informal childcare providers just to educate them. And then again, you know, these are people that we trust, and we want to make sure that our kids are safe at these locations where we take them to. And we're also doing parent virtual learnings. And again, we are doing all this virtual learning right now. We are not doing face-to-face because unfortunately right now with COVID still being really, really active, which unfortunately a lot of people think it's not true, but it is, it's happening. And we got to be precaution. We got to remember, continue wearing our face mask, you know, the 6 feet distance and all that stuff.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And you talked a lot about unlicensed programs and how in Southwest there are no licensed programs. And so there needs to be support for providers and parents as they still are seeking care for their children while they're going to work. Sonya also mentioned that some families are not, you know, they're not able to provide, or even families are not able to pay for care. McKees is actually serving as an unlicensed provider, and she often says she's paid in hugs and kisses. And so, McKees, might you be able to share a little bit about what you're doing to strengthen the connection between yourself and families during this challenging time?
Yes, what I'm doing, because like I said, like you mentioned, I do get paid in hugs and kisses, but I want people to have somebody reliable, like she said, that they can trust and bring their children to. In the same fact that we still want to be safe for ourselves, but we don't have time for fear when it comes to these little ones because they didn't ask to be here and they still have to grow. So in my part, and to be involved in everybody is to keep all of us safe, not just the kids, the families too. So we also have to learn how to teach families as well as what we allow, what we don't allow, how we interact with each other to and from, and if they come, you know, change your clothes, this and that, so we can all be safe in the environment that we're in too.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Sonya, I'm going to go back to you a little bit more around, you talked a little bit earlier about some of the things that you've been doing to strengthen the connection between families and caregivers. You talked about, you know, some Zoom calls and Brightwell app, also meeting with parents and temperature checks. What are you finding are ways that really helps your teachers to better connect with the parents as it relates to child growth during this time? And especially those parents maybe who children didn't return to the program, but they're still enrolled, like they might come back after a certain period of time. How are you staying connected with those parents?
So we're still staying connected with them. We send out YouTubes to them that our teachers made. And we actually send out resources for them. We call and check in on them weekly to, you know, just see how they're doing. So that's how we're really staying connected to them. So a lot of Zoom calls, YouTube channels, and just my teachers are awesome. They always call and check on them, just see how they're doing. So.
Wonderful. And I remember this summer, didn't you have like a half day where you invited the parents in? Tell us a little bit about that. What was that like?
So are you talking about to return for our meeting?
Yes, it was like a half day and the kids were able to come in. Talk a little bit about that.
So on that particular, so before we did all that, we were able, my staff, I made sure I talked to my staff throughout the pandemic. So we were on Zoom call with each other once a week, twice a week, or whatever it took. And we decided that we were going to actually go out to the families and drop off activity kits. And, you know, we had our big signs and we miss you. And so we wanted our parents to know that we were still concerned and that we still cared. And so what happened was when we were returning, I made sure our parents were able to do like the kids do a half a day along with the parents, just to see how it would feel to come back to a different setting, because it's totally different here now. So we did that and it was awesome.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it was a great experience. Oriana, did you have anything to add to the connection, strengthen the connection with families and caregivers before we move to our next topic?
Yeah, I guess like I said, we had already established a few different virtual ways in which we check in with our parents and specifically our caregivers. Like we're both interacting with parents and caregivers who may not necessarily be the caregivers to the parents that we're interacting with. So it's really just our giving parents, most of our parents that we work with are probably using informal providers. So friend, family, neighbor care. They're already probably in deep relationship with most of their providers. They're not, we work with some centers, but we're mostly working with informal care providers, folks who are unlicensed, folks who may or may not be getting paid by the state. And it's often someone that they already know. And so that relationship is kind of already there. But we are also, like I said, giving space for providers to kind of share what it is that they need. And we're also, like, whether it's just like, you know, like my sister drops her kids off over here, I don't have this or that, I don't, you know, maybe I don't have enough food. And so connecting them to programs, things like that. But the relationship is really already there for most of our parents and providers, because we focus solely, almost solely, fully on informal providers. And that normally is a relationship that is already there. But outside of that, like I said, our main focus at this time, like I said, because we are focused on policy change and there is an election coming up, we do have virtual, what we call house parties, where, like I said, providers and the relationships they have, so either the parents that they're caring for or other people that are also caregivers, we're asking our caregiver and parent leaders to jump on Zoom calls and just kind of have conversation, right? Bring your wine, bring whatever you want to bring, but like, let's talk. And then we're also kind of doing the why of like why we want folks to get out to vote, right? So that's kind of like where we stand with a lot of our conversation, is just because we're so close to the election day. We're on why it's important to vote, not we should vote because Black folks fought for this, but it's like, what is my experience and what do I need to change? What do I need to see changed, right? And how does building collective power with the folks that are on this call, meaning like on the virtual house parties, how does building collective power, building community with you all help us to get closer to being able to yield power with or against whoever is in office come November or come January. So a lot of our conversations are right now just places to build community among folks who are all caregivers or folks who are just parents and allies and supporters. And we're focusing on why the experiences that we have, meaning the lack that we have, the struggle we have around, you know, financial support, emotional, mental health support, whatever it is that we're experiencing, how do we actually turn those experiences and into the power that we need to actually change, right, on a political level, on a political landscape, to actually yield some of that power to actually change the experiences that we're having in the future, right? We know right now a lot of folks in office, and especially in the federal and national administration, are absolutely avoiding any responsibility for how big and bad COVID really got. And so it's mostly Black folks, Black mamas, Black families that suffer the fact that they're ignoring all of the opportunities to actually change and do all they could to protect American citizens. So right now, as Black folks, we really just want to get together and talk and figure out, what have we experienced? What have we gone, you know, what has this year looked like for us? And how do we figure out how to galvanize our efforts to make sure that that's not what the next 4 years looks like. So that's kind of where we're focused and how we're connecting people.
Sure, thank you. So, okay, sounds really great to have a virtual house party. So I'm loving these ideas. We have virtual house parties, we have YouTubes, um, we have check-ins weekly, Zooms. I'm also loving these kind of virtual Facebook conversations and being able to have some private opportunities for people to really talk about what they're experiencing, both stress and just trying to function. Samantha, I'm wondering if you might tell us a little bit more as a parent of a 2-year-old who's also working right now, that happens to be working in a childcare program also. What are some of the greatest needs that you have as a parent? And then, given that you also do some outreach to other parents, what are some of the challenges that you see trying to reach parents during this time with all that you're juggling, like a 2-year-old trying to work, you know?
Well, for me, I'm very overwhelmed most of the time. I try not to do this, but I know being a parent, like you can get kind of overwhelmed when they're calling, and no one has any answers and stuff. So my solution has been like just scheduling, like, the last call I have, like, hey, you guys, gonna call, see if you need anything. I just been making sure everybody needs anything. I try not to burden them, and I let people know about little different fun stuff that you can do via Zoom or like outdoor. I try to get outside the house quite a bit, at least meet up at the park and stuff like that. But it is very challenging to be a parent during this time. Uh, and we've been reaching out, trying to make sure that everybody has the technology for my center anyway, trying to make sure everybody has the technology in order to do the assignments and stuff. So yeah, that's been just the hardest challenge for me is finding stuff to do so we're not just cooped up in this house and looking crazy at one another.
hmm So if you think about ways, as a parent that might be helpful for you to be engaged right now, what are some things you talked about it being overwhelming and feeling overwhelmed? What are some things that you think teachers and childcare programs could do to engage parents that doesn't kind of add to the overwhelming and stress that we're experiencing right now?
Well, one thing for me and my center, we kind of split our groups up. So the teachers contact, we have our days and how we contact the parents. So it's not like someone's calling for a different reason every day and we're not bogging their time down. And also like the research, the outreach and stuff I post on my Facebook page. Like we have like little groups and stuff that we do, virtual meetups, and anything that we have from Hope Starts Here. I usually will post on my page, and I like to see people from my neighborhood in the same group. It helps a lot. That really helps a lot. Being able to give a virtual hug to someone and talking to people who are my age and not just a 2-year-old.
Yeah, well, I think that that's really important. So, like we talked about, like these house parties and Facebook, it sounds like that's helpful, right? As
Yes,
you're trying to
especially at the
navigate.
beginning.
hmm
Definitely, especially at the beginning, we were doing all that. And now we're starting to get a little regular, what we do in the week, regular flow of things.
It's better. Are there other needs that you've noticed being a parent of a young child during this time that you can think of?
Socialization has been the biggest challenge for us. So I've been trying to like take her to the park, but even that's kind of risky because it's just a bunch of kids who aren't, regulated there. No one wiping down the equipment and stuff. So that is a challenge because I'm not a teacher by any means. So trying to figure out how to get her the social aspect because she's 2. So, social development is very important at this time. Like she's a sponge. She needs to be around all different types of people so she can develop correctly. And that's been a very big challenge for us.
hmm Thank you. Goya, I'm wondering, I know that you spent a lot of time working with families during COVID. What are some of the greatest needs that they've had during this time and even challenges that you may have had, like reaching and engaging families?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have had a lot of challenges, kind of like recruiting our parents for our virtual learnings. I mean, before what we used to do, we used to go to either events, any kind of open events that we had, we pass out flyers, kind of go out to different clinics, like, kind of talk to people face to face. But unfortunately now it's definitely challenging onto getting people, letting them know about these wonderful virtual learnings that we're doing. Again, Head Start centers, unfortunately, are closed right now. We are focusing on right now on, educating parents from 0 to 5. So again, even with informal childcare providers, just finding the time of day to do virtual learnings with them, it's hard because of the fact that, kids are on these virtual learnings all day. So that's another challenge for us to, kind of keep our parents engaged, The another thing that we have been hearing a lot is financially due to with this COVID, a lot of people are not working, a lot of our families are essential workers. So they are not working at this current time. So what does that mean? They're cut down on time. And now that we have our kids home all day, I mean, just even providing food for them, it's a challenge. I know there's some places that you can go and get food, but even then, just to get transportation is an issue too. Nowadays, even the gas is a little cheaper. Even that, I mean, if your car messes up on you, what's going to happen then? Another big thing that we've challenge has been language access. Anything and everything that you go and you see, everything unfortunately is just in English. Due to our population here in Southwest Detroit, we have a lot of Spanish speaking parents. So again, that is something that we're challenging a lot. Things are not translated at all, and they need to be translated. And that's some couple of challenges that we're going through right now.
Mm-hmm. And I can really understand and see how that can be very difficult. You talked about a lot of really important points there, but I'll start with the latter piece, really the language piece. When we talk about all these virtual meetings and Zoom meetings and Facebook and happy hours and house parties, like being able to have translations so that folks could actually speak to each other is really important, or figuring out how to have those types of events where there is translation provided. And let me just say, as a parent of teenagers, so my children are not young children anymore, but they were, and now they're teenagers and they are like locusts, right? So somebody needs to help me provide some food for these babies in here. So I know exactly what you mean. It's a totally different thing when you're expecting children to be at school compared to needing to cook at home for them. And most of the time, being a lunch lady, I am not on time with the meals. So it's difficult. So I can understand. You also mentioned this financial component, which I think is really important. So I'm going to come back to you, Sonya. It is a difficult time. I want to wonder a little bit about, maybe you could share how many slots your program is licensed for, and how many parents actually have enrolled. How many children do you have that have returned?
So I'm actually licensed for 54 children. I've had 15 to return.
15. That has to be extremely challenging as a business owner. And for all the other students that haven't returned, you talked a little bit about Zoom and YouTube and other videos. What types of topics are parents interested in learning about? Like, what's been the focus of some of your YouTube conversations?
Just doing activities. They want to do more activities with the children. So that's been our main focus, is just being able to send them different lesson plans to do activities with the children. That's been the activity finding, because it's just that, they want to know, what else can we do besides sit in the house and look at the TV? They want to know those things. So that's what we've been giving out, activities.
Wonderful, thank you. I remember, and we heard you say earlier that you dropped off activity kits. Maybe that was coupled with some of those lessons that you were sharing. That's really awesome. And I heard Samantha say, it's like trying to figure out, like, what else do we do? It's wonderful to be partners with DPTV, who has also been sharing newsletters monthly and being able to keep families engaged. I'm wondering, one of us mentioned stress and parents needing support with like behavior. Are any of the groups, any of you all who are on here, Sonya or Goya or Oriana, providing any instruction or support around how to manage behaviors at home? And if so, what has that looked like?
So right now, that's not something that we have that we're owning whatsoever. That's definitely. I mean, we've done some things like um, sending out different like tweets or different Facebook posts that kind of just have a list of like how to like calm down in 15 minutes or how to do this. You know, there's like little things like that. There's small things that folks can read and just kind of like try to practice. But the conversation that came up around like the stress that people feel that their kids are under because of the transition in this new phase of learning really just came up quite recently for us. And so one of the things that we were interested in doing, or parents have shared with us and being interested in, is a parent kind of navigator program. And that's one because because parents were there were mothers on the call who were talking about how their kid has an IEP or their kid has all these other things where they were getting some type of like social work interaction when they were in school. And if schools aren't, not saying the schools aren't doing that or continuing programming, but maybe they hadn't heard. This was like a week before DPS started when we had this conversation where we're trying to figure out how parents are feeling in school. But there are quite a few people on the call who are saying, my kid is going to be very frustrated, or my kid is already frustrated with what it looks like to go back to school and to not be around their friends. They spent the whole summer without their friends. I can just feel the shift in their emotions. Yes, baby. Okay, baby, I'll fix it. And so we were looking to build, we just recently reached out to the Children's Center to find out like what their options are and how they can offer support to parents. But one of the other parents on the call suggested that they have a navigation program where there's like a parent advocacy, like a peer advocacy group where folks who are better at navigating certain systems or getting certain supports, helping parents to connect, them themselves offering and volunteering their time to help other parents to connect. So if your kid is already in therapy, if you already have different connections, just kind of doing like a peer mentor program to help folks to kind of create some plans and get to the right resource. So that's really what we do. We leave a lot of that to our parent leaders to help navigate, and then we try to connect them or allow them to find other resources like the Children's Center or other places so that we can bring those resources back to other parents.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. You know, I do want to highlight that since you mentioned resources, Great Start Wayne has really great, they have a Find Fun page where you can see activities for the entire month and how to access that, as well as some basic needs. So that's another resource that someone from Facebook just shared and wanted us all to be able to announce. So thank you for that. Let me see who that was. This was from Michelle Bernard. So I want to acknowledge and give a shout out to Michelle. Thank you. Also, you mentioned this idea of parent navigator and peer advocacy. And so we're going to shift into our final question before we start to take questions from the audience around some innovative strategies that our team has used or done to really improve and strengthen family engagement. And McKees, I'd really like to start with you as we think about this parent navigator and advocacy piece. I know that you've worked a lot with helping families access diapers and other resources that they might need. Tell us a little bit more about some of the innovative ways that you supported families during this time.
Well, actually, I dropped off food, we dropped off materials, we even did painting with a twist. But we also did our 60 days. We talked about them all the time. People doesn't think that's a program, but it is a program. And if you do those 60 days by hugging and reading and speaking and talking, encouraging and singing and playing with your children inside of your home, will build a lot of character and build a lot of strength. And like I said earlier, it builds resilience. So they'll know that just because we're going through a difficult time, and even though parents are stressed, doing those 60 days will not put that stress on our children because they don't know what's going on. They only know what we're putting into them. So if you embrace your child and put all that love in them, they're going to do exactly that, and they're going to show that to the world.
Thank you, McKees. I feel like I needed to snap for that. All right now. That was like some poetry. Good job. Thank you for sharing that. We're so excited to hear about the 60 days as well. Sonya, share are there any other, innovative strategies that you've done, other resources that have been shared through your childcare program or things that you've had to connect parents to during these times that has really been important for you and your families?
The one thing that we have been doing weekly is picking up fruits and vegetables for our parents and sharing that with them, which they really enjoy. Just giving resources that we get for bills, getting bills paid, rent paid, whatever is needed. So we've been just trying. I guess our biggest thing is just communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Just communication.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to let them know that we're still here for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's been the biggest thing for us.
Yeah,
Whatever they need.
I think that's really important. And it sounded, I know you were saying communicating, but it also sounds like being responsive, right?
Yeah.
Like being able to provide those fruits and vegetables, access to maybe that you're aware that there are resources in the community for paying bills and rent, and you've been connecting families to that. And that's even more critical during this time. So thank you for doing that. You guys are like superheroes, right? Like, thank you so much for all you're doing. Goya, I wonder if you might share any other innovative strategies that you all are utilizing during this time to really support parents?
Actually, here at DHTC, we're actually helping with live translation for live Spanish translation with the COVID 313 townhouse that they are every Thursday from 12 to 1:30, if I'm not mistaken. So again, the importance of getting the word out on the language again, remember I was talking about language barrier, this is one important piece that we are helping out our people in our community to understand what is needed. And also, we're also have cleaners. What we do, we definitely let our parents know where people are giving out food, different locations. We also, at the beginning of this COVID, we were literally physically dropping off food to people at their houses due to transportation, and again, it was food that people would eat, because a lot of times we were hearing that families, unfortunately, the food that we're giving at schools, kids were not eating it because it was foods that they don't eat at home. So we were actually dropping off like rice, beans, stuff that, culture, that people that we actually do eat at home. We're also, we're actually doing here, we're partnering with Metropolitan Diaper Bank, and we're doing monthly pamper giveaways. I mean, that is just a blessing. People come, they're calling us, they're like, thank you, helps out a lot. Pampers nowadays are very, very expensive. I haven't bought Pampers for a while, but the last time I went to the store, I'm like, wow, I am glad I'm not a parent of a small child because yes. So again, that definitely helps, And another thing, what's key is talking to the people by calling them, making phone calls, texting them. I think that's the best way to communicate with our parents or, anybody in our network. Sometimes, we like sending in emails and stuff like that. Sometimes people don't even read their emails, unfortunately, So a quick phone call, how are you doing? Is there something I can help you with? Building rapport with the families, I think it's key also.
I think you've mentioned some really wonderful points. Thank you for sharing that, Goya. Just the methods by which we need to talk with people, and with us being socially distant, it really makes a lot of sense that it's important for us to connect, to hear a voice, to text and be more interactive. So I appreciate your doing that. I think Sonya and her program is also distributing diapers to families. And we've seen that, especially when COVID initially happened, that there was such a shortage of diapers in the community that even if you had the money to pay for them, you couldn't find them. So I think programs like yours, Goya and Sonya, and other partners who are really helping families have access to those critical resources is important. So we have a few questions from the audience, and I'm going to start with that. We have the first question we have is, what advice do you have for parents looking to build their village? I'm actually going to start with Samantha on that one. So as you talked a lot about isolation and, feeling frustrated, what advice do you have for parents looking to build their village?
Well, advice I have to take my own self, because I'm such a closed in person, before social distancing was a thing. So I actively like search for stuff online. Like I went to this, I used to, before COVID, I used to go on this website called Little Guide Detroit. They have like little free events and stuff. I just keep a vigilant eye out for free events with people with kids with a similar age. And usually you go to these events, there's something else. There's always something else when you go to these events. So I build my village like that. Like I look for people who have kids that are at least in the same neighborhood or the same city who are in the same age group so they can have play dates afterwards and stuff. Making sure that, you know, when you come across a mom, if you're a mom like me, I make sure that she has the resources she needs and that she can do the same. Like I just feel like passing it forward, basically, making sure if she got it, she can let someone else know. So like the diaper drives and stuff, when we were doing them earlier in COVID, you tell one mom like, hey, I know you just had a baby. If you need any diapers, we can help you with that. Then eventually she'll come up, well, my sister just had a baby too, you know, things like that. I like to build my web from there.
Mm-hmm. I love that, passing it forward, right? Like that's how you build the village and how it gets broader. That's wonderful. So we have another question here. Where should informal childcare providers go for resources and support? And Goya, I wonder if you might touch on that a little bit since a lot of your work has been focused on informal.
If they would like, I mean, they definitely can email me with Goya Diaz at DHDC.com. So what we do, we have like a resource list on different topics, on different things that informal childcare providers need. You know, we're doing our virtual learnings, you know, if they're interested in participating in that or getting more information on that, they can definitely let us know. Then again, you know, so each ICP informal childcare provider is totally different and everybody needs different stuff. So again, any kind of resource they would like, I can be more than happy to help them.
What are some of the topics? You've mentioned the virtual learning before. What are some of the topics for the virtual learning that you have?
So what we started doing with reopening. Second one was how to disinfect certain toys, like, you know, the importance of, you know, it's definitely a lot of people think using Clorox, you know, to disinfect, you know, no, alcohol is actually the best. It's the fastest way to disinfect. So, and then after, also another thing we did do with our informal childcare provider is talked a lot about self-care. Because again, you know, remember, there are our children's first teachers, and sometimes they just see themselves as babysitters, and that's not the case. And that's another thing that we have done with them. And then there's a lot of other topics they want to hear about, like, you know, CPR, different topics, but again, that'll be in the future that we will talk about that. We'll do a virtual learning on that.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to also ask, I'm going to come back to one point that you made, but I'm going to ask McKees, if being an informal childcare provider and also someone who shares resources, where should informal childcare providers go for resources and support? Like what types of support are you as an unlicensed provider finding that you need, and where are you going to find that support?
Usually, most of the time, we go to our sources. So I have a whole team of women that are very resourceful, and I could call any of them any day or night, time of night, and they will be able to give me somewhere to call or get some help really fast. And I appreciate that about every woman that has been in my corner and my web, because they never let me down with that. And that's what I said, it starts with family, and I consider them as family.
And what is that group? Who are those ladies?
They are my COCs and my COSs of Champions of Hope.
They are. So we have 30 Detroit Champions for Hope that are community outreach specialists who are working in each of the 7 city council districts. And so every district across the city of Detroit has some. And if you are interested in connecting with Detroit Champions for Hope, you can look on Hope Starts Here website or follow their Facebook and get you connected. And that's kind of the web that she's talking about, is local parents helping other parents. So thank you, McKees, for sharing that. So I wanted to go back to something Goya mentioned, is that many informal providers, she said, are really interested in self-care. Now, one of the questions we have from our audience is, what strategies do you give stressed and frustrated parents? I'm actually going to start with Sonya, because you're working with children, and I'm sure you interact with parents often. What strategies do you give stressed and frustrated parents?
Actually, I just had a frustrated parent yesterday, and he was frustrated because he's trying to get his 5-year-old in school. So he's a grandparent who actually is taking care of his grandchildren. So the first thing we have to do is just be calm for them, because sometimes, they take their frustration out on us. So we have to be calm for them. And he was like, I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. I just need help. So most of the time they just need help. So we have to be able to just give them the help that they need and the resources that they need. So I had to be like, okay, let's just take a deep breath together.
Well, so that's the first important one. So if you are a stressed or frustrated parent, take a deep breath, right? That's the first thing. It's the first thing that I say to everybody, even when people call me, like you said, let's just take a deep breath together, right? It gives oxygen to your brain so that you can think more clear, and also calms your heart so it's not racing as fast, so that we can think through this together, right? Goya, you mentioned a little bit about that you had a class around self-care, and I know DCHD actually has other activities that they do for kind of stress relief. What other strategies might you give for stressed and frustrated parents?
And definitely a breather is definitely the first one. We actually tell our parents, what is it that you guys like to do to release your stress? So a lot of people tell us they go out for walks, they dance, they sing, they go outside to play with their children, go out for a picnic. So that's one thing that we let them know. What is it that you like to do? What is it that helps you? Because again, each person is different, and I can advise them, go sing a song, and it probably won't work for them, right? So again, we meet parents from where they're at and what is it that they need. And the question that we turn back and let them know, what do you do? And then we'll go from there.
And what works for you, because each of us is different. And some of the things that you talked about, I just love. You talked about dancing, singing, walking, picnic. And of course, this sounds so much like the 6 days that McKees just talked about, that she loves. She got a big smile on her face, because she's like, I think you speaking my language, right? And so our next question is really around, how do you keep young children focused when they only want to sit for so long? And I love this idea of singing, right? Because you can make up a song about anything. I got this book behind me. I don't know what it is. Like, I could just make it up. Who cares? The kid don't care. So you just make it up, right? Singing is wonderful. So McKees, might you talk a little bit about how you keep young children focused, and how the 6 days have been working for you, that you talked about a little bit earlier?
Well, because the TV don't be on a lot because of I engage with them. When you engage and you're not afraid to get paint on you and all of that in the house, and you get down on the floor with the kids and you turn on a little music and you sing with them and you let them be creative in their minds, and they just bring so much life to me, because you never know what they could say at any moment, not only babies, but teenagers. So engaging in conversation and bringing them all together, because the big ones teaching the young ones. So I'm just be excited about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. And I think about that even too with like books, imagination. As adults, we sometimes forget that we had an imagination as a kid, right? I had imaginary friends. I had, imaginary places. I didn't need anybody with me. I was having a great time by myself. So, but we forget that when we become adults. You can make up a story, you could do a lot of other things. But I think for stress, take a deep breath, go on a walk, count to 10 if that's what you need to, sit down and try to just hear your child. Sometimes it's just that they want to sit and hear you. I was on a call with somebody the other day, and she's like, I'm on the call. And the baby was like, I just want you to get off the call. And I was like, that's the reason they crying the whole time. It's like, I just want you to get off the call. I want you to pay attention to me. And so sometimes we think like little kids are different than adults, but brains still work the same. They have their personality. They want to interact. They want to spend time with you. So Sonya, being a childcare provider, childcare educator, and also supporting other educators in your program as they teach children, I'm going to give you this last question here before we'll wrap up. How do you keep a young child focused? What would you recommend for parents given their ages?
First of all, we have to recognize their attention span is just short, period.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, you cannot have them sit, a long time and not give them a break or activity to do as far as a movement type of thing. So that's one thing. And they need a schedule, a routine. They have to have a routine. And that's going to work. And that's why I'm trying to explain to my parents that are not at the center, that's at home. They still need to be on that same routine, and a lot of behavioral problems comes about at home because they're everywhere because you haven't given them a routine. So that's my thoughts on that one.
That's right. That routine, that nap time, going to sleep on time, all of that. Good sleep is really important for behavior of adults and children. We are our best selves when we get a good night's sleep. So thank you for sharing that. Now I want to give you all an opportunity to kind of share any final thoughts that you have. And Oriana, I need to apologize because I could only see a certain part of my screen. So I forgot that you were on here with me, honey. So how about we start with you? Any final thoughts that you have that you might want to address or even add to some of the most recent questions that were posed?
Yeah, I sat here and I was like, yeah, I guess I'm done here because Leilani was like really at the point where she's like, I need you right now. But I was like, a lot of the conversation is specific to like caregivers and parents, and I'm like, well, I'm more of a parent advocacy support person. So I was like, all right, this isn't the conversation for me, but no worries at all. I was just agreeing with Sonya when I was saying like what she just said was the realest thing I've ever heard. The biggest mistake I made at the top of quarantine was taking Leilani off of her school schedule, and we fell apart for the first few months, and so it was just really a struggle. Like having that break where she could sleep in and I could work a little bit in the hours of the morning. It was not the way to go. Like should have woke her up at 7 or she normally wakes up, you know what I mean? Just kept her together. So I definitely agree with that. I can't remember. A lot of it has just been a lot of that of how to keep kids focused. For me, it's just I've heard some really creative things from parents. I know Leilani is a huge dancer, so for us, it's like whenever she's having a meltdown because mama's on the phone and she's like slapping my computer down in the middle of a Zoom call, we just do a dance party. Like it's like we give her 10-15 minutes of dancing and just fun, turn up the TV on YouTube or whatever song she likes really loud, and just like I give her my full undivided attention for at least 15 minutes. And if I'm late for a call, I'm late for a call. If I didn't get something in on time, that's what it is. Because I understand the balance of like, especially parents who are home with their kids, of what it feels like to have to say, give me one more moment, just wait 1 second. Like kids just don't understand that, and they don't have to accept that. And so really just giving your attention, I think when you can, or just, taking the sacrifice and saying like my child needs me in this moment, or this child needs me if you're a caregiver. I know there's plenty of things to do. There's laundry, there's dishes, there's food, there's everything that we have to do. We have to take those breaks and just give them that undivided attention. We talk so much about on our calls about like just how kids of this time are experiencing things that are just we've never experienced before, right? I think someone said this before, but I experienced this the other day. I was walking through Sam's Club And I went to smile at a little girl who was looking at me with a pretty little face, and she didn't see my smile, like, because I had my mask on. And so I remember feeling like she was looking at me like, why is this lady looking at me? Like, she couldn't really feel it. And I was like, I hope, like, I have my glasses on. This is new for me. So I was just hoping like she really felt it. And I just realized like there's so much that's different for kids right now. And so anything that we can keep normal for them, or anything that we can do, like McKees said, to give them that extra special care and love, I think is absolutely paramount and necessary right now. And like I said, because I work mostly with parents and providers, I don't work with kids as much outside of my own and, you know, my nieces and nephews, folks I babysit for. One of the things I just wanted to add before I go, I think I put it in the chat, but I'm not sure if I did this right on Facebook. Not even going to be sure about it. Mother and Justice actually host a yearly Mama Summit, and that's kind of like the place that we convene with our members and our leaders about what we've done so far, what we're doing, what our plans for the new year will be as far as like policy and advocacy, community support. And this year we're really focused on like self-advocacy. Because we know that with kids being back in virtual learning, there are so many things that are going to be different. There's so many things that are different for every parent. So sometimes like some things hit some parents, like you said, like your kids are much older now. So some of the like early childcare issues aren't hitting you, but you know, you've experienced it before. So we have kind of like waves of folks who are engaged based off the work that we do. But right now, every parent, if any parent with a child in school or childcare is experiencing the same troubles. And so for us, we're wanting to teach self-advocacy and other support through our Mama Summit. So that's something that I think I dropped in the chat, but I'll have to check. In the comment section of October 10th and 11th, we're going to have a free summit that folks can, it's virtual, of course, that folks can sign on to. And we're going to have some really awesome guest speakers and some other information to just like help folks learn and practice their ability to just advocate and build community and have and get the support that they need, because it's going to be extremely crucial in the next few months and, you know, year or so, to make sure that folks know how to connect, because none of us can do this alone.
Thank you, Oriana. Any final thoughts that you have, Samantha? Oh, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
No, not really. I just want to say thank you for having me on here and letting me be heard.
Yeah.
Trying to self-advocate for myself and my child.
Thank you for being here and for sharing your story and your truth. We appreciate that. McKees, did you have any final thoughts?
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you, and I want to encourage everybody that did come in and listen, is that we know everybody is doing the best that they can, and we'll continue to move forward.
Thank you, McKees. Sonya, did you have any final thoughts?
I just want to say, just remember that communication is very important, even with our families and with our staff, because our families and our staff are going through the same thing because they have children too. So just keep that in mind, communication.
That's right. And and your team members are trying to navigate their fears as they're trying to serve other people. So like I said earlier, superheroes, it's really amazing to me. So thank you for all the work that you do. Goya, did you have any final thoughts you wanted to share?
Thank you for having me. Just let's not forget this COVID-19 is not here forever. You know, let's have hope, live to our fullest, and don't forget love. Thank you for
right. Well, thank you all. You all have been super fantastic. I super appreciate all that you've done. And then oh, it looks like we have something in the chat that says we want to, if you have any ideas, we want you to be able to share that. You all are amazing leaders. You're doing fantastic work in the community. We appreciate all that you're doing each and every day. And I just want to just say thank you for sharing your truth and your story and your experiences with us and others. I think we have, is there anything else? Somebody else closing or, oh yes, Georgianne.
Yeah, I just thank you so much, Cora. This has been really a fascinating conversation for us, and I hope, I guess just one thought is if anybody that's still with us wanted to ask a question directly, we might have a couple minutes to do that. So just if you could let us know that by turning on your video and
I have a
are there any
suggestion.
questions? Yes,
No,
ma'am.
I kind of have like a statement. I've been noticing how people been connecting through Messenger to connect with parents, because some parents, phone can be cut off or something like that. So I've been connecting with parents and students through Messenger. So that's another new form that they really doing now versus calling and texting. They used to just text. Oh, they like to FaceTime too. But the Messenger, if a phone cut off, like if one of my parents' phone cut off, I go through Messenger and guess what I do? Get them just like that.
It's
So that's
true
another
because
way
the
to keep in
Wi-Fi
touch.
still works. That's a good point.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but you can get Wi-Fi free in a lot of places too,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they've been doing is
Mm-hmm.
going places, getting Wi-Fi or getting free texting on your phone. So yeah, but I was just saying that's another positive way, and as far as to keep in connect with parents and students and things. That's all.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Rhonda.
Hi, this is Rhonda SQ, and the Hope Star here 6 a days are hug, encourage, play, read, talk, smile, and play with your child every day. Thank you.
And those are all free. That's right. Good job. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else have something they want to share or questions that they might have for our panelists?
Well then, Kamara, thank you so much for being a great moderator, and thanks very much for our panel for bringing everybody together. We look forward, we hope many of you will join us next week when we talk about using technology to connect and play and learn. We have some great work. Some of our team from Detroit Public Television will be presenting, but we also have folks from early on and some other folks that we're bringing to the table. So that should be an interesting conversation about how you can bridge the divide of the screen here to really interact well with families and with children. So we look forward to that. And Angela, you want to take us out with and just say thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. And we'll be forwarding a little information to you as well. And you can watch this same program anytime at dptv.org/Tools for Hope or toolsforhopedetroit.org.